Termites. It's night 20. Isn't that exciting? And soon to be what? The Kentucky Derby. And look at this. What is this? Woodford Reserve. Right, and it's got the little horses on the front. The Kentucky Derby edition. Isn't that nice? You know who's going to like this? My friend Phil, the big bourbon drinker. And Phil knows a lot about gambling. And, you know, I'm not a professional anything, so I'm just telling you what my friend said. He says, because I told him I don't want to bet on the horse that we all know is going to win because it doesn't pay enough. And he said, if you want a long shot, the Pletcher horse Dynamic 1, the 11 horse, is a good bet. And I think he'll probably go off around 12 to 1. He's 20 to 1 right now. So there you go. A little inside gambling information. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. All right. Where we left off was the British papers were being hateful to Liberace. I mean, just true hate. Not even just like, oh, the guy sucks or he's a hack. It was just so beyond that. By the time Liberace reached Paris for a sightseeing tour, Liberace had grown incensed over the British attacks, particularly Cassandra's. She's the one who called him a preposterous clown. He was concerned about Mom, who worried over the articles so much that she made herself ill. She had remained in London under a doctor's care. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, somebody needs to go in and go, ma'am, it doesn't matter. That's just some pissed off jackass. You know, who cares? Like he says, laugh all the way to the bank. Who cares? Reporters and photographers greeted Liberace as he arrived at the Paris airport. He poured out his anger against the degenerate attacks in London that had implied he was an unmanly man. We know what that's code for back then, right? If my mother's health doesn't improve, I'm certainly going to do something about it, Liberace warned, adding that he had consulted his Hollywood attorney, John Jacobs, a Hollywood attorney. It's just a lawyer, but all right. On the matter. I just don't understand how they can write things like that. Just look at the number of women fans I have. They can't be all wrong. People should write news that's fit to print, things they would want their children to read. I guess everyone has to expect a number of non-believers, and I suppose that's why they shot Lincoln. Oh, well, that's kind of a leap. As he ended his press conference, Liberace suffered another indignity. A wasp flew into the room and stung him on the right thumb. How random. Liberace insisted on being taken to the airport dispensary. My thumb doesn't move, he told the doctor in a panic. The doctor assured him it would. Liberace continued his plaint about the London press in an interview with a young columnist for the Herald Tribune, Art Buchwald. Oh, my Lord. God, he was around forever. I must admit I was shocked by the vulgarity and the underlying degenerate tone of 25% of the British newspaper stories, Liberace said. My mother, a sweet, simple person, was exposed to those articles and needed medical attention ever since. Okay, Mom, you got to get it together, right? Yeah. Mom, who arrived in England with such a light heart, told me I should have stayed at home. They wouldn't have said all these terrible things about you. Oh, Mom, it's not about you. Trust me. Buchwald observed Philip Wiley, the inventor of momism, had also attacked Liberace. Am I bitter? Liberace said. I'm never bitter about the things that are written at me, but I do admit that I become bitter when my love for my mother is described as any kind of ism, whether it's communism, fascism, or momism. Yeah, who cares if he likes his mom? That's why the women liked him. God, people just can't put A and B together because they wish their son would act like that. Well, kind of. Liberace's morale was boosted by his Sunday night at the Palladium performance, in which all of his crowd-pleasing skills worked to perfection. As the Liberace party left the theater, more than 1,000 fans swept over him. George disappeared in the tide of humanity. Women screamed. Others fainted. Oh, my God. I can't think of anyone on earth that I could see perform that I would be so excited I'd faint. And I get excited, but like when you see those people fainting over the Beatles or Elvis, or maybe if somebody came back from the dead, I might faint, like, but more out of shock. I can't believe people get the hysteria was everywhere. Bobbies rushed in on foot, some on horseback, to control the mob. Liberace enjoyed himself immensely. But in Manchester, it was a different story. Pickets appeared outside the theater with such signs as, oh my God, Send the ferry back to the States. The ferry. Oh my God, I can remember my grandpa using that word. And here's another one. We want He-Man, not mama's boys. What do you give a shit? Who has the time for this? Who has the time to make a sign and go down to a concert you will clearly hate? And it's like the people who ran over their fucking Dixie Chicks CDs because country music stations told them to do it. You know who has time to do that on a Tuesday? You know what I call those people? Unemployed. Who's got time for that? Even if you hate the Dixie Chicks, just throw them out. But you already spent the money. Keep them. I mean, that was forever ago, but this is the same type of thing. In Sheffield, Teddy Boys, the new breed of ruffian rebels, stood in the back of the auditorium and shouted, "Queer, go home." Wow. Didn't they get kicked out? Just for heckling to begin with, but... And they also screamed, "We don't want Yankee fairies." Wow. Liberace was shaken. Yeah, that's fucked up. He had all kinds of hecklers in his saloon playing days, but nothing like this. Right. He had to summon all of his powers to entertain to make it through the performance. Why isn't anyone kicking these people out? Where are the bouncers? Where's your theater staff? These are fancy places, too. The Cassandra article inspired a flood of Liberace jokes in the London cabarets, and some were printed in the gossip columns. A song that appeared in a stage review and was repeated on television contained the lyric, here we go, "My fan mail is really tremendous. It grows so fast my head whirls. I get more and more. They propose by the score, and at least one or two of them are from girls." Wow. I did not know the British press and the whole situation, that they were that aggressive. Something had to be done, he realized. The demonstrations would increase and they would spread back to the United States, making it impossible for him to keep entertaining. Well, you're going to have to marry a chick? I bet that's what's coming up. He telephoned John Jacobs in Hollywood. "Let's sue the bastard." Okay. Yeah, I guess you can do that too. On October 22nd, 1956, the British High Court issued a writ on behalf of Liberace against the Daily Mirror and William Connor on a charge of libel. It was too much for any man to stomach, Liberace told the reporters. "If I didn't have the contract dates in the immediate future and my appearance didn't depend on my hands, I would knock Cassandra's teeth down his throat, and I ain't kidding." But you have to say that with a Wisconsin accent. Okay, here's how he would have said it. "If I didn't have the contract dates in the immediate future and my appearances didn't depend on my hands, I would knock Cassandra's teeth down his throat, and I ain't kidding." Now see, when you say it with the Wisconsin accent, it doesn't sound as threatening. That's why I never could believe Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer, because if you ever saw the interview with him, he was like, I killed them and I ate them, and I know it was wrong. Who would think that guy's a serial killer? I would have went into his apartment too. Sounds so nice. Mom called them hillbillies. I don't know about those people. And maybe, I guess there's hillbillies globally, global hillbillies. Then I would call them globillies. That's what they would be called. That was her euphemism for young men who hung around the Sherman Oaks house, sometimes in large number. They sat in the swimming pool in their bikinis, of which Mom did not approve. They drank her son's liquor. Oh, these are the hillbillies? These are the gay guys? She's calling them hillbillies? Oh, wow. Okay, whatever you got to do. They stayed until late at night, playing loud music and laughing hysterically at their own jokes. Often Lee joined them. When he was on the road, they came and made themselves at home. So, oh, wow, he's gone, and they're fucking coming over to the house. Sometimes Mom called John Jacobs to complain, and he summoned the police to rouse them. I don't like those hillbillies, Mom complained. I wish you could get rid of them. Oh, Mom, they're harmless, Lee answered. They amuse me, and they relax me. It's the only time I can just be myself. That much was true. Now in his mid-30s, Lee, for the first time in his life, was able to fraternize openly with other homosexuals. He never dared before. Exposure would destroy his career. Now he was rich enough to take chances, and the sense of danger appealed to him. His managers and publicists attempted to counteract the recurring slurs against Liberace's masculinity. From the outset, Gabby, Lutz, and Heller eliminated from his biography references to the star's love of sewing and other domestic pursuits. That'd be good. If you want to quell that rumor, probably. But I don't know. There's straight guys that sew, right? I saw Project Runway. I mean, somebody sews. But back then, people would have judged that, I'm sure. Efforts were made My dad would probably still judge it today. Is he sewing? What's wrong with him? Nothing, Dad. Nothing wrong with him. Huh. Now he just knows to not say anything. Efforts were made to encourage him to take up horseback riding to no avail. Why? That seems Marlboro Man, Ronald Reagan masculine, I guess. I don't know. Like a Western, all of a sudden you're John. Now he's John Wayne. After the Joanne Rio fiasco, Liberace had purported a romance with Frances Goodrich, a pretty young heiress to a California citrus fortune. He maintained that the romance ended when her family wanted him to give up the piano and manage their orange ranches. Oh, that is a terribly constructed lie. Nobody's going to ask Liberace, hey, man, could you just quit doing that and manage this orange shop I got? That's not believable. Next came Sonia Henney. They met at a Ciro's party, and Lee invited her to the wedding of his sister, Angie, who was taking a second husband. Sonia not only came, she sent a pair of ice sculptures to the reception, one of her skating, and the other of Lee at a piano. Well, fucking, she's a keeper. Who does that? Who sends ice sculptures? That's great. Lee visited her huge Bel Air house, and they sipped champagne and watched her old movies, much like William Holden and Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard. Their dating was duly noted by the gossip columnists, but their careers kept them apart. The romance faded, and Sonia later married her third husband, a Norwegian multimillionaire. Good for you, Sonia, good for you. In England and everywhere he went, Liberace repeatedly stressed in public that he was not a homosexual. Sometimes he became demonstrative about it. After a concert in his hometown in Milwaukee, he was approached backstage by an effeminate man. We're so proud of you that you are one of us, the stranger gushed. Liberace's eyes hardened. He shoved the man away from him and exclaimed, I am not a homosexual. Okay. Yet the evidence continued to mount, and the biggest blow came from a disreputable rag called Confidential. No idea. Nothing had scared Hollywood so much in years, not since the nation's moralists poured their wrath down onto the wicked city of the 1920s. Had the movie industry's leaders been in such a panic. All this because of a monthly magazine with lurid headlines printed on cheap newspaper and ads for men's potency pills and mail-order diamond rings. It sounds like kind of like the Inquirer. I guess it was a version of that. Confidential was the brainchild of Robert Harrison, a small-time New York publisher who understood the public's thirst for inside dope about Hollywood celebrities, the real inside. Confidential seemed to have sprung up overnight into a full-size monster. It appeared in grocery stores and newsstands everywhere with catchy headlines about the stars and their sexual, alcoholic, narcotic misadventures. The reaction of the public was there must be truth in these stories or the magazine would be run out of business. In most cases, there was a degree of truth, enough to discourage litigation. As Confidential boomed in a 5 million circulation, it was the largest of any monthly. It could afford to take chances on lawsuits. It could also support a small army of reporters and private detectives and pay large fees for scandalous information. Someone calling me. Hospital nurses, hookers, discharged servants, and out-of-work publicists turned informers for Confidential. So did legitimate reporters who risked the loss of their jobs to accept a big paycheck for stories they couldn't print. One gossip columnist said to have been trapped in a homosexual liaison. In return to Confidential's suppression of the story, he passed along tidbits in the magazine. Everyone in Hollywood reads Confidential, the sardonic Humphrey Bogart remarked. They all deny it. They say the cook brought it into the house. Exactly. Most people in the film community were not as amused as Bogart. Careers were being hurt by the allegations, and the studio bosses feared another national backlash, such as the one in the 1920s. In the July 1957 issue of Confidential offered such cover lines as, Anthony Quinn, caught with a gal in a powder room. Then another one, when Nancy Kelly learned her love scenes in a car. What? When Nancy Kelly learned her love scenes in a car. Okay. Eartha Kitt and the man who sat there all night. All right. This biggest display was given to a grinning photograph of Liberace under which was printed, exclusive! Why Liberace's theme song should be Mad About a Boy. Oh, so scandalous. The story was written in Confidential's titillating style, stretching what seemed to be minor events into episodes worthy of a Henry Fielding novel. Here is the story according to the author, who called himself Horton Street. Well, I think we should save this story for the next one. Whatever that's going to be. It's just so juicy. We're on page 127. Oh, termites. I've been vaccinated. I hear there was a little row about, and I would call him a friend, Joe Rogan, telling people, young people, that they don't need to get vaccinated or shouldn't get vaccinated. Everybody's allowed their thoughts, but here's the thought I have. If I'm going to approach a comedian for medical advice, it's going to have to be Dr. Ken Jeong, everybody, The Hangover, that guy. He's a stand-up too, but here's the thing. He's actually a medical doctor, which when I'm seeking medical advice, I find that to be important, because otherwise I could just ask one of my dipshit bar friends, which I have done that too. Like when there's something weird on my skin, you know, you're like, hey man, you think that's cancer? Nah, great, let's have another beer. So, yeah, there was that. Seemed to be a big spot. But it'll blow over, you know. That's it, termites. It's getting warm outside. That's exciting. Pull up your summer sheet. You got your spring sheets out? Spring sheets, yeah. This is actually very good, and I'm not a big bourbon person. Are you ready? Close your eyes. Know you're a good termite. You're a worthy termite. You're a springtime termite, for God's sakes. You're coming out like the termites, which, by the way, I have carpenter bees. Have you ever seen what a carpenter bee can do? The holes they drill that are perfect. It's eating the side of my house. I got to get my guy, Steve. He loves to kill to a point where I'm like, Steve, I hope this is only reserved for insects. He gets an immense amount of joy out of terminating insects, which is great because that's his job. But it also makes me laugh because his passion is so intense. And I thought, you know what? It doesn't matter what you want to do, as long as you're passionate. I text him, dude, I got carpenter bees again. I'm on it. I'm there. I will kill them all by noon. Great. I like that he likes it. All right, that's it. Ready? Pull your sheets up. Night, night, termites.